So first I will turn it over to Lisa.
Thank you, Matt. And my name is Lisa Graves, and I am the Executive Director of the Center for Media and Democracy. We publish alecexposed.org, along with some other sites, including prwatch.org and sourcewatch.org. And it's an honor to be here in the Iowa State Capitol and to have such a distinguished panel to be part of, and to have the chance to talk with you a bit about our research regarding ALEC. We are, I confess, we are a Wisconsin organization from nearby, so we're out of state. But we're not quite as out of state as many of the folks who are part of ALEC, many of the corporations and these outside groups that are attempting to influence your law in this state. What we're here from out of state to tell you about is about that extraordinary influence of these out of state corporations, in many instances multinational or international firms that are primarily located outside the United States that are part of ALEC. We began this research project over a year and a half ago after a whistleblower provided me with all of the bills that had been previously voted on at ALEC meetings. And so ALEC has been around for over 40 years, but it has operated largely below the radar screen in most state capitals in the country. What we discovered in looking at those bills was that ALEC had its fingerprint on decades of law, decades of legal changes in states like Iowa and across the country. And the most disturbing thing for me as the person who opened up these bills and took a look at this material was that ALEC was telling its corporate members that through ALEC, that the unique thing about ALEC is that unlike the National Conference of State Legislatures and other bodies of legislators across the country, through ALEC, corporations, corporate lobbyists have an equal, quote, voice and vote, an equal voice and vote with state legislators. As someone who previously worked in Washington, I was the chief counsel for the Senate Judiciary Committee on Nominations. I was formerly Deputy Assistant Attorney General of the United States Department of Justice. I had been a lobbyist for a couple of years in Washington on some national security issues. I've seen how government works, and I've seen lobbying, and I've been a lobbyist, but I had never seen anything like this. What we discovered in our investigation was that through ALEC, elected representatives from Iowa and other states go off to fancy resorts where they meet behind closed doors, away from the press, away from the public, and they actually meet around a table like this at a hotel. The corporate lobbyists vote on bills that they want to become law, bills that they want to get introduced in state houses and enacted into law, and legislators vote, and they vote as equals. To me, that was shocking. I think to most Americans, that goes way beyond what they might even be concerned about the undue influence of lobbyists on our democratic process. What we discovered was that this was the norm. So while ALEC has a public-facing component of its operations in which sometimes its lead speakers or event might be broadcast on C-SPAN, the real work of ALEC happens behind closed doors, away from the press and away from the public. And at those meetings, corporate lobbyists introduce bills to the ALEC process. They are sometimes amended in that process. Legislators vote. The vote is tallied. Sometimes it's unanimous, sometimes it's a split vote. The corporate vote is tallied, and if the corporations object to a bill going forward, it does not go forward to the ALEC board. The ALEC board is made up of both corporate lobbyists as well as politicians, but under ALEC's bylaws, only the politicians ratify the decisions of the task force. So what ALEC will say is, politicians have the final say. The reality is that those votes occur in a room with those corporate lobbyists watching them vote on bills that those corporate lobbyists have already voted on below during the task force process. And in essence, for the most part, ALEC's board defers to the results and findings of those task forces, as often happens in the committee process within the legislature. I emphasize that in part because what ALEC will sometimes say is, it's okay because you'll get a hearing in the State House. You can have a hearing, we're not actually enacting this law, you get a hearing here. But what we've seen in state houses across the country, certainly in my hometown in Wisconsin, in Madison, in Ohio, in Michigan, and across the country, is that often what happens is if there's a majority of ALEC leaders in a state, or if the ALEC leaders in the legislature are the leaders of that legislature, have leadership roles, they basically push through that ALEC agenda and don't really allow for it to be amended. Oftentimes there are hearings, but they're sort of show hearings in which the deal is already done and the bills are going to get through without any changes permitted by the minority in that instance. And so what we see is that bills move forward with provisions that were crafted by corporate lobbyists, voted on by corporate lobbyists as equals with legislators, pushed into law in the states across the country, and really the public is left out of that process, and Iowans are left out of that process in large part. And the reason why I say that as well is because what this agenda is not a homegrown Iowa agenda addressing the concerns and clamoring of Iowa constituents about what would make their lives better. This is an agenda that is largely crafted by some of the biggest corporations in the world, including Koch Industries, which is led by two of the richest men in the world. It's an agenda that's crafted by the biggest oil companies in the world, the biggest tobacco companies in the world, the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world, and some other major foreign and domestic interests. That agenda is one that leaves Iowa citizens with less opportunity, less resort to the courts to pursue justice, less opportunity in their employment process in the state in terms of their rights as employees, less opportunity to have clean air, clean water, and defend local democracy through ALEC's preemption efforts and other bills and matters that Peter is going to talk about. And that's why we're concerned. That's why we're very happy to have this invitation from Matt and the opportunity to join in this report and help expose to you ALEC's role in this State House and why you should be concerned.